Was he in a flow state when he was playing?
100%. Like, as I said, it's the more he developed as a human being, the more he learned about himself, the more he learned about self-acceptance, the more he learned about acceptance of others and their individualism, and that you don't have to clash or you don't have to sit and hammer things out because the way I think about it is correct, or I know more than you, or I was there and you weren't. You know, all that kind of stuff that we learn as we get older, you know, and I think when you have kids that think they know everything, you realise I'll just sit back here now and wait till they realise they don't. But he was always observing. So like you said, that flow state. So if he wasn't in great form on a day and he sat down to play, you'd know. If he was nervous, you'd know. If he was in great form, you'd know. If he was giddy, you'd know. I think one place where it really, really shows is that, again, back when I was a teenager and played with him quite a lot, you could play 4 nights in a row and you probably wouldn't repeat a lot of the tunes. You know what I mean? His recall was absolutely outstanding. But there was no such thing as, oh, feck it, he played all these great ones on Tuesday. Do you know, he's dragging the barrel now by Thursday. Like, there was nothing, I mean, the standard was always exactly the same. So I think it's probably because his music just was not contrived in any shape or fashion. I mean, he worked at his music and he worked at technique, and he adored the Scottish, you know, and he would have taken, I think he might have actually done a grade or 2 violin kind of classes, you know, for holding and things. So he would know a lot about tone and that kind of thing that I had no concept of. I thought you just put a bow on strings and off you went. He might bring fiddles into the house and say, try that. And I pick it up and I go, God, I can't do anything with that. And he'd pick it up and make it sound magnificent. He turned around and go, you know, really, you should probably, you know, try and just be able to you should be able to get the sound out of any fiddle, you know, if you know how to approach it. So he had an innate knowledge of the fiddle and its workings. And I know he would have gone to Scotland a small bit when he was young. And knowing Dad would have gone off skiting around on his own, and probably would have sought out music if he could to watch and study them, you know, positions and all that kind of stuff. He loved changing tunes into keys where he'd have to come up the fingerboard. And again, that was probably more when I was in my teens, because I remember him doing a lot of that at home. He was always developing his own skills. But when it came to actually sitting down to play, like practicing and playing were 2 separate states of minds. I always say it's like Wurzel Gummidge. He'd just take off one head, put on the other one, and he'd become the musician. You know, I'd say it was almost a form of meditation for him. I'd say even when he was young, there would have been a lot of people coming through his parents' house, my grandparents' house, during the Troubles, and they would have stayed there on and off. So it was always I'm sure there was probably a lot of tension, you know, low-level tension in the house, and maybe conversations that he would have picked up on. I know he told me, so if you walk into the house, there's a stairs, and the bottom couple of steps, it curves around. He used to sit on the stairs and rock like this. And his mother was always teaching him songs, so he'd have had a lot of songs when he was really small, so he'd sit and sing. And that could have been a kind of a comforting thing, because I do believe, and I see it in some of my own siblings, there's this connection, a very deep connection to what goes on around you. So tension, or if someone was hurt, he knew somebody was hurting, that would really, really get it, you know, he'd really feel it. So I'd say he picked up on a lot of stuff. So this was kind of almost like a comfort blanket. So when he started to play the fiddle, it was the same thing. You know, that it was kind of his zone that he would go into to escape from everything else. And so in that, yeah, I would agree. Definitely, what did you call it? The flow state. Yeah, very much. Because we all rocked as kids. Every one of us at home wrecked chairs. We'd all be singing, or I'd be singing the A, B, A, B, D, E, B, D, B, G, the tunes we were learning in school, because it was all in letter form. I'd be singing them at the top of my voice. We'd all be sitting down rocking away, like. And he was fascinated with this because he never told us or showed us. But it came out in all of us. But I would say initially, it probably was like a kind of a soothing thing, you know, because there was always strangers in the house. You know, it was like a safe house, and people would come and stay there and hide out for a while, or because it was so close to the border, you know. And he would have been very nationalistic, and we would have been very nationalistic listening to him. You couldn't but be, you know, a bit of so he was very proud of being Irish, and very adamant that he should be able to speak his language where and when he felt like it, and would have done it at the border every single time. So he was a very, he was complex, I suppose, in a way, like, as came out in his music. You know, he would talk about his parents being spalpeens, and he hated the thought of his mother being brought off to a big house for a day to work and coming home in the evening and nobody speaking about much, as in the experiences of the day. You know, he was very, very, very deeply fond of his mother, very much so.
Tell me about spal. What's a spalpeen?
So the spalpeen is where they would literally line up on the side of the road, and because all that area was planted, the man from the big house and his horse would come along and heat a few of them, and they'd have to follow him, walk up the road after him, and they'd get a bit of food or the couple of pence or for the day's work, but that's all they had. Like, I mean, they were literally forced out of a living in their own land. Do you know what I mean? Like, because, and it's the Lagan Valley, so it's lush. So there was a lot of plantation went on there, and so his parents would go off every day. Like, they didn't have jobs. They had to hope that they'd be picked. But even he's, and I think a lot of it related back to his mum, that her being, the degradation she would have gone through in her own home, like in her own land, by these people with strange accents and self-entitlement, and, you know, looking down on his mother when his mother was the apple of his eye, you know. But how dare they then, in the historical or the local context, because everything with him was layered, you know, that the fact that it was happening to everyone in the locality, he would feel it for all of them. But his awareness of it came through his mother. So his awareness of music came through his mother. His awareness of the environment came through his mother. You know, she was a very loving woman. Like, I met her first, I think, when I was 6 or 7, and the accent up there is so hard, we actually thought they were fluent Irish speakers. And, but like, she'd have me up on her lap, you know, and you know when you're kind of very small, like, it wasn't even 6 or 7, it was way smaller. And you'd be kind of, I was very shy anyway, and you'd be kind of like, you know, as a kid, you'd be kind of going, oh, I don't know you, even though I know you're my granny, but she'd have you and she'd wrap you up and she'd sing you songs and she'd be rocking you, and, you know, we'd get into the car to go home after a week and we'd cry all the way to Bundoran, like, because we didn't want to leave her, you know. She just had that way about her.
What was her name?
Mary Ellen. She was Martin originally. So he was very passionate about love, even though, you see, he was so quiet that he didn't talk a lot. So even when we were growing up, he wouldn't have talked a lot. Every now and again he'd get a fit. We might be driving from Belfast and he'd talk all the way home and you'd be like, and he'd be telling you things, but then he mightn't talk for ages again. But he had all these thoughts and feelings. So like you'd if he got annoyed, you'd know, but he wouldn't say it, you know. Or if he was enamored with something, you'd know, but he wouldn't say it. But you'd know, it just kind of come out through him. And again, maybe it's just being his daughter that it was kind of obvious to me. So he had a big thing about love, and love the language, love the music, love the people, love the place, love your country, you know, love for refugees, love for people in all sorts of states of want or need. And he would have learned all that from his mum, you know. So I think she was a very pivotal figure in his life. He was very much a product of everything he experienced. And because he was very quiet and very thoughtful, he would have listened an awful lot, like to everything. So there was a very huge difference. So I think by the time he came to Kilfenora, even the brightness of that, or you know, Dublin probably, what am I saying, Kilfenora, Dublin, when he moved to Dublin, like the brightness and the everyone was so jovial and chatty and meeting up and having loads of sessions, and everyone was delighted and clapping, and like I was never ever brought to a tune when we went to my grandparents in East Donegal, to the point that I said, is there musicians around here? And he was, there is, he said, but you wouldn't have sessions, you know, because historically they couldn't gather, like they couldn't, like the hall in Killycanley was almost like an act of defiance. And very much so in my dad's eyes. Now, he was very young at the time. I think he said the first night he ever played there, he was 12. But he would have been quite instrumental in organising some of those nights, or prompting them. And it was to let all the landowners know, we're here and we have culture. And, you know, we mightn't have your house, but we're very proud, and we're very proud of who we are. That was very important to him, you know.